Hi there, welcome back to my channel. Today I wanted to do a part 2 of the beginners video I've made a couple of weeks ago. When I watched that video back, I realized there were so many other things we could be discussing that I didn't have time to talk about. And today I specifically wanted to talk about patterns. So what is a pattern? Where we can find them, and what type of things do you need to think about when picking a pattern and deciding what yarn to use with that pattern. So what I wanted to start by saying is that whatever I talk in this video applies as well to crochet. So if you are a beginner crocheter, this video might be interesting for you anyway, even though I'm going to be mainly talking about knitting patterns, but whatever concepts I use should be applicable to crochet as well. So first, what is a pattern? A pattern is a recipe. You know, when you're cooking something, you might follow a recipe to know what ingredients to buy, what ingredients to mix in which quantities, and the pattern for knitting or crochet is serves the same purpose. So someone might have knitted or crochet something like a jumper, or a toy or a scarf, etc. And they want other people to have the opportunity to make the same thing, exactly the same, maybe in a different color or the same color, it doesn't matter. So they write a pattern. And I'm not a pattern designer. I wish I was. Actually, it's one of my dreams to become a pattern designer. But I've never designed a pattern, but I can imagine that it's quite a long process, because first you need to design the pattern, make it for yourself, maybe make it in a couple of sizes, and then you need to grade it. That means that you need to write the same pattern but for multiple sizes. You know, more and more the patterns you see out there are size inclusive, which is fantastic. So, but for that to be a reality, the people designing the pattern have to think about those things and grade the pattern to different sizes for different body types. And then they might pick some test knitters from the community. You know, they put out a call for test knitters. People apply, they say, yes, I want to test knit your pattern. And then those test knitters go away and knit or crochet the pattern in some specific amount of time, sometimes using the same yarn, sometimes using a different yarn than the pattern designer used, and then they come back with feedback and say, I would change this, or this didn't work very well for me, or this is my final design and my final object. They might send pictures, and then the pattern designer goes through that, makes any modifications that might be needed, and then releases the pattern. And you can have some patterns that are free, but most patterns will have a price that can range from like a couple of euros to 10 euros or something like that. So that's a pattern. It's a recipe for you to make something that you've seen before. You've seen pictures of it, you like the look of it, and you want to make it for yourself, so you buy or get the pattern from a source. What are the sources where you can get patterns? I'm going to talk about the 4 main sources that I use, even though that the first one I'll talk about is the one that I actually use the most. So the first one is Ravelry, which is a website that functions like a database for patterns. It has other functionalities, so it's kind of like a community. You can put your projects there, take pictures of your projects. You can go into the forum and discuss with other knitters and crocheters. And you might also contact the pattern designer. You might see what other people are up to, but I mainly use it for finding patterns and buying patterns. The second way is to go into the pattern designer's website. Sometimes they have a website and you can buy their patterns directly from the website. The third way I use is Etsy. So more often than not, a smaller knitwear designer might not have their own website, but they might have their patterns in Ravelry or Etsy. So sometimes if I can't find what I want in Ravelry, I look in Etsy and I'll find the pattern in Etsy. And the fourth one is magazines and books. So you might have a knitting book that someone gave it to you or you bought, or it's like your grandma's or your mom's. and that book might have some patterns that you can follow as well, or you can buy a knitting or crochet magazine, and that magazine will come with patterns as well for you to follow. So next I wanted to talk to you about 3 types of situations that I found myself in either recently or in the past when I'm looking for a pattern of something to make. And I'm going to talk you through what I do before I start the project. So the first situation, which happened to me this morning, was I saw a post on Instagram of a cardigan that I liked the look of it a lot, and the person who made it is not the pattern designer. So I saw her pictures on Instagram, and we're gonna together try to find the pattern, look at the yarn choices, how could I make that pattern myself, and go from there. The second situation is also a real life situation I have at the moment, which is I have some yarn and I want to find, and I know the pattern that I want to make with that yarn, but I'm not sure if I can use that yarn for the pattern. So we're going to go through the informations that I have on the pattern that are out there online before even buying the pattern. And then I'm going to check if I can use that yarn for that pattern. Do I have enough? Do I need to buy more? Etc. The third situation is, okay, you know you want to make a certain garment, but you haven't seen one that you really like. You don't. There's no reference. There's no name of patterns you know already. So we're gonna try to find a pattern that you might like to use. So we're gonna go blind. We know what kind of garment we want, and we're gonna try and see how I would search for a pattern in that case. Okay, so I'm recording my screen, and I wanted to show you what happened to me this morning when I was scrolling through Instagram. I was scrolling through Instagram, and I saw the posts from Deborah Vieira, who is a lady here in Portugal who knits, and I follow her on Instagram, and I saw this post with this cardigan, which I'm sure she knitted herself. There's no information on what pattern she used or what yarn she used in this post. So what I did next was I looked for another post that had the same cardigan and tried to find that information. So here it is. This is the same cardigan. And you can see she used 2 hashtags, Easter jacket and the Fontifado. And after doing some research, I realized that Easter jacket is the name of the pattern, which was kind of obvious. And Fontifado is the name of the yarn she used. So this is very useful because the person who posted this picture has kind of given us the information of what pattern she used and what yarn she used to make this piece. So I know I have the name of the pattern. I can click on the hashtag and I can have a scroll to see if I can find the original post by the knitwear designer. But what's more useful is actually to go to Ravelry, which is the website I mentioned, where there's loads of patterns, and try to find that one in here. So let's click on advanced search. You can see there's loads of different tabs. So there's like patterns, yarns, community support. You can also find a lot of information on yarns on Ravelry, which is good, very useful. You have a forum, you have pages where people post their projects, but I don't tend to use that many features on Ravelry. I tend to use it just to look for patterns. So let's click on advanced search. And then the advanced search page is open, and I'm gonna be looking for the Easter jacket. And I'm not gonna select anything else. I mean, I could select knitting here, but I'm gonna leave everything empty and just search for the name of the pattern because I know that's the name of the pattern. And as you can see, the results have a lot of different options. Some with the Easter on the name, some that are by a person called Easter. But I can see immediately that the first one is actually the pattern we're looking for, and I can even see that I put it on my favorites quite a long time ago, and I forgot. So here it is. If I went to my favorites, I could see it there. But that's the first option, and it's the one we want. So we click on it, and I can see from the pictures on the left, this is the pattern I want to be following. This is the page of the pattern. On the right, you have the price. On the left, you have some pictures. And then in the middle, you have quite a lot of information, which we're gonna go through together. So first you have who published it, which is Petite Knit. Then you have the craft, which is knitting. You could say crochet, for example. And then we also have suggested yarn, which is 2 Isagar yarns. And she could have used one yarn in part of the cardigan and the other yarn in another part of the cardigan. But from the construction of this cardigan and from looking at it, my hint is that they were held together. Both yarns were held together, and it says here actually yarn waist is yarn held together. So she held together these 2 yarns. One is fingering and the other one is DK, and together it gives an Aran weight. So if I want to substitute the yarn, I need to either buy a yarn that is fingering and another one that's DK that go together to make Aran, or I can just buy the Aran yarn as well. And if I search for what was the name, Fontifado on Google, this is one of the yarn shops I use in Portugal. So I can see that this is the page for the Fontifado, and if I go down here, I can see that it's Aran. So I can see that she used one yarn to substitute the other 2 held together. So I know from the pictures on Instagram that this yarn at least is gonna work out well with that pattern, which is great information for me, because I can then go ahead and instead of trying to find a third yarn that I can use, I can actually just use this one. It's available to me in Portugal. I know where to buy it. Fantastic. I can look here at the options of colors and just pick one, which is really great. So let's go back to the pattern page. I also have the gauge information. So maybe what I want to do is to, if I already had the yarn, I could already make a gauge and measure it and see if it was going to work out. I don't have the yarn, so I probably will have to buy the yarn. I have the needle size, so there's 2 needle sizes being used. I can check before buying the pattern if I have the needles I need or if I need to buy the needles. In this case, I actually don't think I have 4.5, so I would have to buy 4.5 needles, which is not a problem. And then the yardage, so this is the amount of yarn that was used, and usually it's given as a range because it's for all sizes. But sometimes it also says the amount of yarn you need for each size, and it might say that once you buy the pattern, it might actually say how much you need for each size rather than having this range, which is not very useful to me because I would have to pick a size, probably a small or a medium, and not know how much yarn I need. So I actually often buy the pattern, inspect the pattern, and then go and buy the yarn. And he also has the languages available, which is very great. So very inclusive, as you can see. And then the sizes as well, which again is also very useful because you can already find your sizes. Now, sizes vary largely from pattern to pattern. So inside of the pattern, you will see once we look at a free pattern, you can see that each size will have a chest measurement, for example, where you can pick your size. But actually, if we look at this information here, it already has that. The Easter jacket is designed to have approximately 24 centimeters of positive ease. That means that will be added to your measurement. So if your chest measurement is, let's say, 90 centimeters, you should have a cardigan that's 90 centimeters plus 24 centimeters in total. So that's what positive ease. Negative ease is when something will hug your body and it'll be slightly smaller than your body, and then you'll stretch it as you use to adapt to your body. But this cardigan has positive ease of 24 centimeters. And then it actually says that the sizes are designed to fit a bust circumference of, and then it has the centimeters and inches here, which is really great because I can already from here pick a size if I measure myself. Then you have some more information, again the sizes, the bust circumference for each size, and you can see so how it's written, extra, extra small, and S, and they're separated by parentheses, by brackets, so you can see which one is equivalent to yours, which is fantastic. And then the length of the cardigan measured from the mid-back. You have the gauge again, so you can make one already, you can make a swatch already, and it says what needle the gauge needs to be worked on. Sometimes it also says what stitch you need to use for your gauge, but here it sounds like it's going to be a textured pattern, so it sounds like you're going to have to knit the actual pattern of the design to get your gauge. And then again you have some more information. Here we are. Here you have the information of the length you need or the weight you need for each size. So you have here the grams for each size of this yarn, and then the grams for each size of the other yarn. And from this, usually you can work out how many balls of yarn you need of this yarn recommended or of your yarn, because you'll have the information of the length of each ball of yarn. And well, for example, here it says the Isagar yarn, it's 50 grams are equivalent to 275 meters. So let's say I need 400, I will need 8 times this. So I can do the calculations how many 8 times this is, and then go and look for the yarn I want to buy, how many balls of yarn are with that amount. And then he also says you need 5 buttons. So this is Petite Knit is quite good at putting a lot of information up front before you buy the pattern. So you can already see a good example of a pattern that even before you buy it, you already have all that information. You can go ahead maybe and buy your yarn, make a swatch, a gauge swatch. And this is, so I would probably now would go ahead, if I wanted to make this cardigan, I would go ahead and pick one color of this, do the calculations of what I need. Here you see like the 50 grams is 124 meters. So I can check how many balls of yarn I needed and go ahead and buy that and make the same cardigan. Okay, so the second example I wanted to show you is a situation when I have a yarn and I have the pattern I want to make. I know the pattern I want to make, but I don't know if I can use this yarn and how much of it I need to buy for this pattern. So the yarn I have is João by Rosa Pomar, and I have 4 balls of this. I think I said in a previous video that I bought this to make a snood. I had made a workshop and I wanted to make a snood, and then I decided not to make it. So instead I want to make that vest, but I don't know if I can use this yarn for that. So let's have a look. First of all, I need to remind myself what the name of the pattern I want to make. So I know that the pattern is by Rosa Pomar, so we can either go to our website of her haberdashery, or we can go to Ravelry and search for a name. So if we go to Rosa Pomar, so there's loads of patterns by her, so I can just click on her name, and then there'll be all of our patterns here, and here it is. This is her latest release, is the Abba's vest, and it's the one I would like to make in João. So I can click on the pattern. You have some pictures here. So let's open this picture, and it's a really beautiful pattern, and that's what I want to make with João. But what I would have to check, so I'm not going to go through all the information again because I already used the other pattern to show you what the pattern page has. But what I'm interested in now is the yarn weight, which is worsted. So then I need to figure out what is the weight of my yarn, and it doesn't say on the label, I don't think. But what I can do is I can go to the website where I bought the yarn. I can search for João, and here it is. This is the yarn, and I can come down here. This is in Portugal, but her page, you can also have it in English. And I can see that is, trying to find the weight. So I can't find the weight. Let's try and go. Okay, I had a hint that it was sport yarn, so I found it under the sport. I think if I went to the English website, it did say the weight. Let's try that. Okay, we're now on the English one, and if I go and I look for João, and here it is, the weight, sport. I don't know why it doesn't say in the Portuguese page, but you have here sport. So it's not exactly the same weight as the pattern calls for, but I think I could go ahead and do a swatch. So what I will probably do next is do a swatch by the pattern, because I think I want to do it. I want to make this vest anyway. So I can either, it says here, the gauge, I don't even have to buy the pattern because the gauge information is here. I can just go and look online, maybe on YouTube, how to do the basket weave stitch. So I'll probably open YouTube, find a tutorial for the basket weave stitch, and make this swatch. And then I see how much of my gauge is. Could I adapt the pattern to make this with João? And then I'll try to calculate how much yarn I need. Are the 4 balls enough, or do I need to buy more yarn? So that's probably what I would do. Okay, this was the second situation, which I wanted to get done anyway because I want to make this vest and I have the yarn. And the third situation is, okay, let's say I want to make a cable jumper, but I have no idea where to find the pattern. I have no pattern in mind. Nothing has come across me that I'm like, yeah, I want to make that jumper, but I still want to find a good pattern. So I'll probably go to the advanced search, and I'll probably write cable jumper or sweater. Sometimes if you put sweater, there are more designers in the States. So let's try sweater. And then I'll probably pick a few things here from the left side menu. So I'll probably pick knitting. If I wanted a free pattern, I can go ahead and click that if I wasn't willing to pay for a pattern. And then I can, if I already had the yarn in mind, I could pick the weight of the yarn I have. So let's say I have DK yarn already and I want to make the pattern. So then it already updated the results, and I can see a lot of different results. So there's over 9,000 matches. So one thing I can do, there's best match, but I can order them by different a different order. So for example, if I want to see what's very popular right now, I can go to hot right now, or if what's most popular in general, I can go to most popular. The jumpers that are in most favorites, I can order by that, or most projects, most queued. So let's go to the hot right now and see what we get. Hot right now is the field sweater, which is already in my favorites. I think I discussed this in my video where I showed you the patterns I want to make. But yeah, you can see already that you could pick many designs, many different types of jumpers. There's also some cardigans, but I can't stare at this too much because I'm already seeing quite a lot of things I would like to make. But yeah, you can have a browse, look for the thing you want, and this is a good resource to then find the pattern you want. You can also filter by the amount of yarn you have, and I think you can filter by price, but maybe I'm mistaken. I thought you could filter by price as well. Let's see. You can filter by language, which is very useful. But not by price, not that I can see. But yeah, you have a lot of filters you can use. Has photos, you might want to just pick the ones that have photos. So let's click on that. If I wanted something with color work, for example, I could come here and pick the type of color work I want. Let's say I want intarsia. I click on that, and I can see different results. So this is a great resource for knitters and crocheters to go and pick some patterns to make. I find it very, very useful. But yeah, so this is your introduction to patterns. I hope it was helpful. This is how I work. I'm sure other people work very differently. But yeah, I hope you enjoyed it. If you did enjoy it, please give me a like, consider subscribing to my channel, and please consider leaving a comment. I know that I don't have a lot of views, which is fine. I know that I have at least 3 friends who watch my channel, and I'm very happy if just them learn something from this, which would be fantastic. But if I have more people I don't know watching this, I would really appreciate if you leave me a comment. Let me know what you took from this video, and I'll see you on the next one. Bye bye.